Hello, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk, and here I have the Nokia N series Nokia N97 Mini. Been trying to get our hands on one of these for quite a while. They seem to be fairly difficult to come by, so finally got one. As you can see here, the box itself is fairly mini for a Nokia item. It's quite thin and kind of stylish with silver writing on the outside, kind of cool. Have a look inside. Opens up as do most Nokia handsets now, with this sort of double design and a fairly nice presentation on the inside. Handset itself just there, we'll look at in a bit more detail in just a second, and then the battery next to it, which are the two items you're going to need straight away. So it's quite nicely laid out. The battery is a 1200 milliamp hour battery. Have a look at that, and the handset itself obviously in a second. Inside, well, we have a few items. First of all, we have a media control, which has got a 4-pole 3.5mm jack on one end, and then this sort of inline media control. We've seen these on other Nokia handsets, not particularly new in that respect. So we have push button for answering and hanging up the calls, media controls, play, pause, stop and skipping tracks, little lock switch on the side, actually just sort of kind of deactivates the buttons, up and down volume control, 3.5mm headphone socket on the top, and then a clip for clipping onto clothing. So it means that you can use that in combination with your own headphones or the ones that are supplied, which we'll just look at. But that gives you an inline microphone and media controls. That will work with any headphones, or as I say, the ones I'm about to show you, which are, again, a standard 3.5mm socket on one end, and then the actual headphones themselves. We've seen these on countless other Nokia handsets. They are supplied with almost every handset now, and they are pretty good. In terms of just the bundled headphones, they're not bad at all. I tend to use my own ones that I prefer, but they aren't bad, the ones that come with it. We then have the charger, which is a micro USB style charger, which is pretty standard on the Nokia handsets now. They all seem to be coming with a micro USB. This one is a European plug because this is a PR model. It's coming from elsewhere in Europe rather than a full UK model. But if you bought it in the UK, obviously you're going to get a proper UK plug. Also in the box, we have a USB to micro USB sync charge cable, and obviously use this for connecting up to your PC for transferring media to and from the handset. Then we have a couple of different headphone earbuds. They don't actually seem to be the right ones for these headphones though. I think that's something that's been supplied. So this is a PR model that's been out to other reviewers probably. So they don't appear to go with these. So whether these are right and these are wrong, or the other way around, not sure. I'm not sure whether these are the right ones for this handset, but they don't go with those headphones. So try and clarify that when we do the review. We have the manual, which covers the basics. How to use the handset, how to sort of put the battery in, the SIM card and all those sorts of things. Thing about the GPS and OV maps, and the OV suite, which is for CD-ROM for installing on your PC. And a bag which is empty. Another thing about the OV store, and another thing about navigation. So that's everything that's there. As I say, this is a PR model, so it has been out to probably other reviewers, so some of the bits and pieces have already been opened, and some of the other bits might not be 100% as to what you would get with a retail, and we'll try and clarify that when we actually come to do the full review. So let's take a look at the handset itself. Obviously it's very similar to the original N97, albeit that it is smaller by virtue of its name. It is the N97 Mini, obviously. We have a 3.2 inch display, which is 360 by 640 pixels. A fairly unusual resolution. There aren't too many handsets that have that. Do have a forward-facing VGA camera, which you use for video conferencing, and a couple of sensors on the front there that you can see, one being a proximity sensor and the other one being an ambient light sensor. Underneath we have the menu button and the red and green phone keys for sort of answering and hanging up your calls. Swinging around to the left-hand side, we have the micro USB connector. Does have a little LED next to it. I don't know if you can really make that out, but a little LED next to it to actually show you the charge status, I assume. There's the little lock button, which is what turns the display on and off, kind of into sleep or hibernate, well, sleep mode, and turns the screen back on. On the bottom there we do have what looks to be a loudspeaker grill, and there's another one on the top, so presumably they are two loudspeakers for stereo output. Nothing really to see on the bottom. There is an eyelet just on the corner so we can connect up phone charm or a lanyard. Dedicated camera button, an up and down volume control rocker are really all we have on the right hand side. And on the top we have the 3.5mm headphone connector and a power button. 3.5mm headphone connector is an AV style connector as well, so if you've got an AV cable, one of the Nokia AV cables, you can output to your video, or to your TV rather, so you can actually display your videos or your photos from the handset onto the TV, so that's kind of cool. That's really all on the outside there. On the back, a 5MP autofocus camera with dual LED flash. Pretty good cameras that tend to be on the Nokias. We've liked them in the past. I assume this is going to be a fairly sort of standard Carl Zeiss affair. Dual LED flash is, say, pretty good too. No mirror for taking your self-portraits. There's sort of a shiny area around there, which I guess you could probably make out your reflection if you wanted to do self-portraits. I guess you can do. Back cover pops off like so. A SIM card goes in the space just under here, and a micro SD card just in this space just here. That's micro SD card socket. Let's pop the battery in, which goes in that way round, and then we can still get to the micro SD card. Obviously the SIM card's further underneath now, and then the back cover just pops on like so. Back cover is metal, fairly sturdy, and just pops closed like that. It's only got like a little sort of spring loaded catch there, so I suspect if you dropped it that would probably pop off. I think if if you drop it you won't be worried about the back cover, you'll be worried about damaging the handset more than anything else, but yeah, it's just something to sort of consider if you do drop it. Watch where the back cover goes. Let's just power up. While that's powering up, let's just take a look at the keyboard mechanism. Just like the original N97 that we looked at quite a while ago, it is this sort of funky rocking mechanism when you actually open the keyboard, and it's quite positive. It sort of snaps open, snaps shut, and it does sort of present the keyboard in an angled fashion, or the screen angled towards the keyboard, which is quite cool. So when you actually sit it open, or if you've got it sitting on a desk, it's slightly angled towards you, which is nice. Or when you're actually typing away at the keyboard, the screen is just angled up towards you as well, which is, yeah, I think it's a nice arrangement. 3 rows of keys for the QWERTY keyboard. Wasn't a big fan, to be honest, of the keyboard on the N97. The N97 Mini has a fairly similar keyboard. Nice individual keys they are. Not very tactile. You can't hear a click. You can kind of feel that they're being pressed under your fingers. And I think it would probably be something that you would get used to. We have cursor keys on the right hand side, symbol and shift keys on the left. Just don't like the placement of the space bar. Would expect the space bar to be in the middle. Obviously it's set over to the side. Again, that's something you'll probably get used to, but sort of in the early days that might just sort of frustrate you a little bit about using the QWERTY keyboard. It is asking me to set up the date and time there, and it does look like, rather than working by accelerometer, it is just when you actually open the keyboard that it actually does rotate the display. Possibly that might be a setting that we can look at. So I'm just going to accept the defaults. I'm going to OK through these. Seems to be a resistive touch screen. It's requiring a little bit of pressure and seems to work with my fingernail rather than the centre of my finger. So we have the sort of home screen, if you like. As you can see, the screen is quite reflective, quite shiny, as you can see there. I'll ask it to remind me later for updates. Yeah, it's quite shiny, quite reflective. I deliberately shoot in a bright environment so you can actually see the handset properly, and it does give you a bit of a feel for how the handset will perform in bright conditions. I think that's kind of useful that you can actually see it in that respect. We will do some screenshots though when we come to do the full review so you can see them a bit better, but it just gives you an idea, a taster of what the handset's about. On the screen we have messaging, so you can actually type a text message, and then we have the web browser, which we'll look at when we come to the review. These are fairly standard. You've got the OV store, you've got Nokia Maps. I'm not going to pop into them just now because we've shown them on other videos, and this is a fairly standard thing. You've got your calendar, and phone times change. Wait for the calendar to update, and exit that. We've got a Facebook widget actually sitting on display there, which is asking us to sign into. It's also telling us to set up email and go to music, other bits and pieces there. The clock up the top, obviously, and date and the time. Doesn't rotate there when I'm actually rotating the display. I assume it will do so when I open up the keyboard. Yep, it does. It sort of snaps to when I actually open up the keyboard. It actually changes the arrangement as well, which is quite cool, rather than just squashing it all in. It puts half on one side, half on the other. I'm assuming there is an accelerometer that we can actually set up there. If I push the button at the bottom, we can go into the menu. You can actually scroll through the menu. There's only a few items in there at the moment, but we've got an applications list that we can have a look at. Things like the clock, the calendar, share online, my location, my Nokia, a few other bits and pieces there. We've got Boingo, Traveller, all CNN, Amazon Store, a few other things in there that are definitely worth looking at, and we will do so when we actually come to do the full review, but we won't actually look at them just in the unbox. Quick rundown of the specification: 113mm from top to bottom, quite long, 52.5mm wide, and just over 14mm thick. Already that back cover seems to want to pop open, so let's just squeeze that back shut. Symbian OS 9.4 S60 5th edition, 138 grams. Doesn't feel particularly heavy. I think it's because it's a fair size. It seems to spread the weight in the palm of your hand, so it doesn't feel particularly heavy. 3.2-inch display is quite generous. Looks quite good. Quad band for GSM and tri-band for HSDPA, so it's pretty much going to work wherever you take it. When you're roaming, when you're on holiday, when you're working overseas, you should pick up a signal and some coverage. 128 meg of RAM, and this one has 8 gig of built-in storage, which we can obviously add to with the micro SD card. Bluetooth 2 with EDR support, does also support Wi-Fi. 802.11bng standards are supported. There is an FM radio with RDS, built-in GPS, which we pretty much come to expect on almost every handset now anyway. 5 megapixel autofocus camera, colour Zeiss lens with dual LED flash. There is a forward-facing camera, which is 0.1 megapixel. Well, I guess that's kind of VGA res for video conferencing and that sort of stuff. So, video calling. So that's a very quick tour of the Nokia N97 Mini. We'll have a full review for you with screenshots and little descriptions of what the built-in applications are, what they do, a review of those also. Over the next couple of weeks, our review will be ready on tracyandmatt.co.uk. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. On Twitter, we are Tracy and Matt. No.co.uk actually in our Twitter name. It's just Tracy and Matt. Worth following us because whenever we post updates, whether it be news or if we publish a review or a video, they actually do get we actually do tweet out an update, so you can actually see that we've got new content on the website. So it's definitely worth following us on Twitter. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with some more videos and reviews on tracyandmatt.co.uk.